friends. What you're about to hear today will shake you to your core. A helpless mother, terrified of her cruel husband and crushed under society's pressure, placed her 2-day-old baby girl in a small basket and let her float away on the river. But no one ever imagined the same baby who was abandoned to die would one day change the destiny of an entire village. How did such a miracle happen? Who found that innocent child? And what hidden power did she carry in her tiny hands? Trust me, this story will leave you stunned. Watch till the very end to know the full truth. Give a like to support our work. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and comment which city or country you're watching from. Now, let's begin. The sun burned fiercely above the river, scattering golden light over its trembling surface. On the bank sat Amna, barefoot, tired hands dipping into the cool water as she caught fish, one after another. She placed them quietly into an old, worn basket beside her. Worry, exhaustion, and an unspoken sadness were etched deeply into her face. When the basket finally filled, she let out a weary breath, adjusted her shawl, and slowly walked back toward her small mud house. The walls of the house were cracked, the ceiling shed dust, and poverty lived openly within those four corners. When Amna stepped inside, she saw her husband, Farouk, lounging on an old cot, a cigarette pinched between his fingers, its smoke coiling lazily into the air. In her tired voice, Amna said, "The fish are ready. Please take them to the market. We're out of food." Her tone carried a quiet plea, layered with fatigue and a fragile hope that died a little more every day. Farouk took a drag from his cigarette, stood without a word, lifted the basket onto his shoulder, and walked out. When the door closed, it felt as if Amna collapsed into her own silence. She lowered herself to the cot, eyes filling with tears. Twice in the last 2 years she had become pregnant, and both times she had been forced to end the pregnancy. The midwife had told her the truth. Both were girls. The moment Farouk heard that, his voice had shaken with rage. He had screamed at her, "I don't want a daughter. If you give birth to a girl, I will bury her alive, and you with her." That threat had planted a cold terror deep inside Amna's heart, one that only grew stronger with time. Now she was pregnant again, 3 months along, but there was no trace of joy on her face. Farouk's cruelty had turned her days into uneasy breaths and restless nights. Time passed. Amna reached her 8th month, but rest was something she couldn't afford. Despite her pregnancy, she caught fish, filled baskets, and carried the weight of the home on her shoulders. Farouk simply sold the fish, wasted half the money on his pleasures, and brought the rest home. One day he announced, "I'm going to the city for a few days with a friend. I heard there's a big market. Maybe I'll get a shop. But remember, when I come back, I want a son. If it's a girl, I'll throw both of you into the river." Amna bowed her head silently. When Farouk left, the fear inside her grew even darker. Days passed. Then one morning, a sharp pain struck her stomach. She rushed to the midwife, who came immediately. Moments later, a tiny, beautiful baby girl was placed into Amna's trembling arms. Soft pink cheeks, closed eyes, gentle breaths. "Congratulations, Amna," the midwife smiled. "You've had a daughter." But joy did not bloom in Amna's heart. The moment the midwife left, tears slipped silently down her face. Within moments, she made a decision. She wrapped the baby gently in cloth, placed her softly inside a small basket, and stepped outside. A cold wind touched her face, but the fire of fear inside her burned hotter. At the riverbank, she sat down. When she saw the baby's eyelids flutter faintly, her heart cracked open. She broke into sobs, lifting her hands toward the sky. Ya Allah, she is your trust. I return her to you. Protect her. Through her tears, she placed the basket slowly into the water. The river carried the baby away, and with the drifting basket, a part of Amna's soul drifted too. She watched until the basket became a distant dot, then disappeared. Her sobs echoed like something inside her had been torn away forever. Hours later, she walked back home in shattering silence. She prayed, cried, and begged for forgiveness. 2 days later, Farouk returned. "What happened?" he demanded. Amna lowered her head and said quietly, "It was a girl. She died at birth." Farouk exhaled harshly. "Good. If she hadn't died, I would have killed her myself. I can't tolerate such a burden." Amna looked at him with silent tears. She knew arguing was useless. In front of this man, her words had never mattered. And somewhere far across the river, an innocent life floated toward a destiny neither of them could imagine. Far across the river, a small wooden boat drifted silently over the calm water. In it sat a young couple, Shefraz and Maimuna, laughing softly, enjoying the quiet beauty around them. Their faces glowed with warmth and affection, the kind that comes from years of companionship. Suddenly, Maimuna's eyes widened. She leaned forward, pointing toward the water. "Shehraz, look, there's something in that basket." Her voice trembled with shock. Shehraz turned quickly, leaned over the side of the boat, and peered inside the drifting basket. "Oh my God, it's a baby," he whispered. The boat slowed as he gently pulled the basket aboard. Inside lay a fragile little girl, her face slightly cold, her breaths faint, but she was alive. The moment Maimuna saw her, her heart filled with tenderness and mercy. "Who could leave a baby like this?" she whispered, lifting the newborn carefully. Shehraz touched his wife's shoulder softly. "Maimuna, let's take her home. We'll see what we can do." They turned the boat toward the village. For years, Shehraz and Maimuna had prayed for a child. They had wealth, land, orchards, a grand haveli, but their hearts remained empty, longing for the sound of tiny footsteps. Maimuna's love had always been so deep that Shehraz never once thought of marrying again. Their home felt complete in every way except for the absence of a child. And today, it felt as if God Himself had sent this tiny soul into their arms. At home, Maimuna wrapped the baby in warm blankets, gently warmed milk, and placed the feeder near her lips. As soon as the milk touched her mouth, the baby slowly opened her tiny lips and drank. Tears of gratitude filled Maimuna's eyes. "Shehraz," she whispered, "it feels like Allah sent her to us. Our prayers, they've finally been answered." Shehraz smiled softly, voice filled with emotion. "Yes, Maimuna, from today, she is our daughter. We will name her Fatima. Allah has blessed us with this gift." Years passed gently. Fatima grew under their love like a flower nurtured by the softest hands. At 5 years old, she was nothing like an ordinary child. Sick villagers were brought to her, and somehow, through herbs she gathered from the forest, her small hands carried healing. Her remedies brought relief where others failed. People whispered that God had placed a special blessing in her touch. And her parents, they looked at her with pride. "Our daughter is extraordinary," they would say. Meanwhile, life for Amna and Farouk had changed drastically. Farouk, once arrogant and harsh, had been struck by a sudden, debilitating illness. Endless coughing, suffocating fear, and weakness had consumed him. Every medicine failed. His pride crumbled into desperation. One day, a friend told him, "Across the river lives a devout old healer. Go to him. People say he has God-given healing in his hands." A faint spark of hope lit Farouk's eyes. The next morning, he and Amna boarded a small boat and headed toward the healer's village. 5 years had passed since Amna placed her baby in the river, but her heart still bled every day. Not once had she revealed the truth to Farouk. The weight of that secret pressed on her soul like a stone. They reached a dense forest where tall trees cast long shadows. Beneath one of them sat an elderly saint, leaning against the trunk, softly reciting verses. Amna and Farouk approached and sat before him. Calmly, the saint asked, "What troubles you?" Oh, Farouk poured out his suffering, his illness, his fear, his hopeless search for a cure. The saint listened quietly, then lifted his gaze and examined them intently. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "you suffer from the curse of an innocent child, someone whose rights were taken, someone whose cry reached the heavens." Tears streamed down Amna's cheeks, though she tried to stay composed. Farouk murmured, We have no living children. A daughter was born once, but she died at birth." The saint's eyes grew sharper. He looked at them with a depth that pierced straight into their souls. "The cure for your illness," he said, "lies only in the hands of your daughter." Farouk froze, stunned, confused, unable to speak. Amna could no longer hold the weight inside her. Her voice trembled as she said, "No, she didn't die. I placed her in the river." And piece by piece, she revealed the entire truth: her fear, Farouk's threats, the helplessness that forced her to abandon her own child. Listening to her, Farouk's eyes filled with shock, grief, and shame. Tears flowed down his face. They both broke into sobs, feeling their past sins crushing them from all sides. But in that storm of guilt, a fragile hope flickered inside Amna. "Farouk," she whispered, gripping his hand, "if the saint says our daughter is alive, then she must be. Somewhere. She is still in this world." For the first time in years, Farouk wiped his tears and felt a trembling ray of hope. "Yes, Amna," he whispered. "If she lives, we must find her. We have to. But where do we begin?" Amna steadied her voice. "We start right here. We ask the villagers. We search every corner. We won't leave until we find her." With renewed determination, they rose and began walking toward the village, hearts heavy with guilt, but fueled by a desperate, newfound hope. As Amna and Farouk approached the village, they saw a wide green field swaying softly in the breeze. At its edge stood a man examining his crops. Farouk stepped forward respectfully and asked, "Brother, do you know anyone here who treats illnesses with herbs or remedies? We've heard there is a healer in this village." The man turned. It was Shehraz. He studied their unfamiliar faces for a moment, then replied gently, "Why do you ask?" Farouk hesitated, then admitted, "I've been sick for many years. Someone told us that a healer lives in this village. We came with hope, nothing else." With a kind smile, Shehraz said, "Come with me. You are guests here, and it is our duty to serve guests." He led them to his large haveli. That night they were treated with great hospitality, warm food, soft bedding, and sincere respect. After years of suffering, it felt like the first moment of comfort in Farouk's life. The next morning, Shehraz said, "My daughter prepares herbal treatments. Allah has blessed her with healing hands. She visits her clinic in the evening. Go there and she will help you." Gratitude filled Farouk's eyes. For the first time in years, his heart felt a strange sense of peace, an unusual calmness he couldn't understand. Evening arrived. Soft lamps glowed inside the small clinic. Farouk and Amna sat quietly on a wooden bench, while a young girl, Fatima, studied Farouk with extraordinary seriousness and skill. To see someone so young working with such grace left them breathless. Fatima selected a few herbs, ground them gently, and prepared a small bottle of medicine. Smiling sweetly, she said, "Take this. In a few days, your illness will vanish completely." And so it began. Day after day, Farouk and Amna visited for treatment. Fatima greeted them warmly each time, her presence radiating purity and innocence. Slowly, miraculously, Farouk's health began to improve. Within a month, he was cured completely. The man who had once been weak and hopeless now stood strong and healthy, yet his mind was restless. The saint's words echoed constantly. "Your healing lies in your daughter's hands." And now this little girl, Fatima, could she truly be the same child they had lost? Amna too was tormented by the same thought. One evening she whispered to Farouk, "Farouk, we must find out who this Fatima really is. What if she is the one?" Farouk nodded slowly. "You're right. Go to Maimuna tomorrow. Ask carefully. Find out if Fatima is truly their child, or if she came to them from somewhere else." The next morning, Amna wrapped her dupatta tightly and walked toward the Haveli. Her heart pounded the entire way. When she arrived, Maimuna welcomed her warmly and poured tea. After some small talk, Amna gently asked, "Your daughter, she is very talented, mashallah. Did she learn from someone?" Pride lit up Maimuna's face. "She's gifted by birth. Allah gave her this skill naturally." Amna swallowed, then hesitated before asking, "Do you have only one child? No other children?" Smiling, Maimuna replied, "No. Allah blessed us with only one daughter, our Fatima. She came into our lives after many years. She is our heart." The color drained from Amna's face. Her spirit felt crushed under a wave of disappointment. She forced a smile, excused herself, and left the Haveli. All the way home, one question echoed painfully in her mind. Is Fatima truly not my daughter? Or is something being hidden from us? Days passed. Amna and Farouk continued to live in the village. Every day their hearts clung more strongly to the belief that Fatima was the same child Amna had once placed into the river. Amna visited the Haveli often. She would sit with Maimuna, help her in the kitchen, and watch Fatima from a distance. Touching her hands, brushing her hair, hiding her heartbreak behind small smiles. Then, one day, everything changed. Amna was sitting beside Maimuna, talking casually, when suddenly Fatima ran inside crying. "Amma, I hurt my hand." Her small hand trembled, and a tiny wound glistened on her skin. As she lifted her sleeve, Amna's eyes locked onto Fatima's wrist. Her heart stopped. There, on her delicate skin, was the exact same birthmark. The same mark Amna had seen when Fatima was born. The same mark she had touched before, placing her in the river. The same mark she had buried in her soul for 5 years. Her eyes widened in shock, her breath shattered, and tears burst forth uncontrollably. Fatima finished getting her bandage and ran outside to play again. But Amna, she broke completely. Maimuna turned and saw her sobbing uncontrollably. "Sister, what happened? Why are you crying?" Amna fell to her knees, her voice choked and trembling. "For God's sake, give me back my daughter. She is my child, my daughter." Shock and anger shot through Maimuna's face. What nonsense are you speaking? Fatima is my daughter. You people stayed in our home, and now you claim my child is yours. Leave. Right now. Amna pleaded with folded hands, tears pouring down her face. Finally, she told the entire truth. Her fear, her helplessness, the river, everything she had hidden for years. But Maimuna's face hardened even further. If she was your daughter, you would never have thrown her into the river. You gave her to death. Now she belongs only to us. Do not ever step into this house again. She pushed Amna out of the Haveli. Amna stumbled home, crying bitterly. There she revealed everything to Farouk, her confession, her regret, everything she had never dared to say. Farouk too wept, overwhelmed by a grief he had never known before. That child, our child. We lost her because of our sins, he whispered. Their hearts felt split apart. Yet for the first time they knew the truth with certainty. Their daughter was alive. She had grown up, loved, cherished, and safe. She was near them, but she was no longer theirs. That evening, when Shehraz returned home, he found Maimuna sitting silently, her face pale and troubled. He sensed something was wrong. What happened? He asked gently. These tears welled up in her eyes as she told him everything about Amna's claim, the birthmark, and the confession. Shehraz's expression hardened. His voice carried both pain and firmness as he said, Fatima is our daughter, only ours. We raised her, we protected her, and no one will take her away from us. For a moment, Maimuna felt relieved, but far away, in a small mud house, Amna and Farouk sat in a darkness far deeper than night. The weight of their past sins suffocated them. They had finally found their daughter, yet she was forever beyond their reach. The next morning, a loud knock sounded on their door. Farouk opened it and froze. Standing outside were Shehraz and Maimuna. A heavy silence filled the air before Shehraz finally spoke. His voice was calm, but each word struck like a blade. Farouk, I know who you were. The man who hated his own child. The man who said, if a girl is born, I will kill her. Do you remember those words? Farouk lowered his eyes in shame. Then Shehraz looked at Amna. And you were her mother. A mother never throws her child into the river, no matter how much the world threatens her. His voice trembled, not with softness, but with the fierce protectiveness of a father. You both had one gift from Allah, and you abandoned it. We did not. We saved her. We fed her. We prayed for her. She is our daughter now. Only ours. He reached into his pocket, pulled out thick bundles of money, and placed them in front of Farouk. This is for the rest of your life. Take whatever you need, but leave this village and leave our lives forever. Forget that Fatima was ever your daughter. Amna and Farouk's eyes filled with burning shame. Okay, how could they ask for the child they had once thrown away? How could they claim a daughter? They themselves had surrendered to death. They remained silent because guilt had stolen their voices. The next morning they went to the Hapuli one last time. Fatima came running toward them with a bright smile. She hugged them warmly, innocent, unaware of the truth buried in the hearts of the people standing before her. Amna's fingers trembled as they slid through Fatima's hair. Farouk's eyes glistened as he watched the child who might have been calling him father today. Had he not allowed cruelty to blind his heart? A storm of grief raged within them, but they did not speak. They simply looked at her, really looked, because this was the last time they would ever see her. When they walked out of their Haveli, Evening shadows had begun spreading across the sky. In their hearts, a wound opened, deep, raw, eternal. They knew a truth more painful than death. They had reached their daughter, but they could never call her theirs again. This was their punishment, the child they had abandoned. Allah had placed her in a home of love and mercy, far better than the life they could have given. Fatima had grown into a blessing under parents who cherished her, protected her, and treated her like the miracle she was. Walking back to their small house, Amna made a silent vow in her heart. If Allah ever gives me another child, I will protect that child more than my own life. Farouk, too, was filled with regret. Tears slipped down his face as he whispered the same realization over and over. Daughters are not burdens. Had I held my baby close, she would be sitting by my side today. Days later, they left the village quietly, hearts shattered, souls scarred, but with one strange comfort: their daughter was alive, she was safe, she was loved, and she was living a life far better than anything they could have ever offered. With that truth warming the cold corners of their hearts, Amna and Farouk returned to their old village, broken, repentant, but finally at peace with the destiny Allah had written. Friends, today's story reminds us of one simple truth: even in the darkest moments, light always finds its way. The baby who was abandoned to die didn't just survive. She became a blessing, a healer, and a source of hope for an entire village. Children are never a burden. They are gifts, miracles, and the mercy of God. If this story touched your heart, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment which moment moved you the most. See you in the next video. Peace be upon you. Allah Hafiz.